Joining me now is Nic Hulscher. He's an epidemiologist. He's also the director of the McCullough Foundation. Are we about to see a bunch of your chicken shot up with mRNA? And what will happen if you start consuming said chickens? Are you going to be eating a bioweapon? Will the food supply be poisoned? These are all questions, not statements. I don't know. I want to bring on Nic Hulscher to find out the answer to these questions. Nic, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we have a report, I think you put it up on your website here on X, mass vaccinating poultry with non-sterilizing H5N1 vaccines, mRNA, or single antigen, will accelerate viral evolution, fueling deadlier strains and raising the risk of a human pandemic. This plan should not even be on the table. Yet it is apparently on the table. Why? And as I said in my opening, what will this mean if you consume chicken that's been shot up with mRNA? What does this mean? Are you now eating the bioweapon or toxin, poison? What?
Yeah, well, first off, this plan, and actually John Fleetwood on johnfleetwood.com, he broke this story first. And what actually is happening is the USDA is preparing a potential plan to mass vaccinate poultry for H5N1 bird flu. And we thought, honestly, because RFK recently came out a few months ago and he said they're not going to do this. But now this new USDA statement to Reuters indicates that they are indeed preparing this plan to mass vaccinate poultry. They're trying to sort things out with trade, right? Because other countries don't want vaccinated poultry. So it appears they're trying to quell those fears in an attempt to approve this. And this will be an absolute disaster to mass vaccinate poultry for bird flu during a bird flu animal pandemic will accelerate viral evolution, will lead to mutant strains, and drastically increase the risk of a human pandemic. This really should not be on the table. And if we do consume the vaccinated poultry, either with mRNA or with antigen-based vaccines, that food will likely still be toxic, right? We'll be consuming then the vaccine components if they don't degrade. So this whole thing should be stopped. We should learn our lessons back from China. They mass vaccinated poultry years ago, and it was a disaster.
So you can't cook it out. Is that right?
It'll probably degrade the proteins. It'll probably degrade the mRNA if you do cook it. But again, these are all unknowns and things that they will probably not test. And we won't know which chickens have the vaccine products or not. They won't require labeling. And so regardless, even if it is destroyed during cooking, we don't want it in our food supply.
No, we don't. But there's no guarantee it will be destroyed, right?
Right. There's no guarantee because that's something, knowing how they don't test things before they roll them out, I would not expect them to test how to remove the vaccine components.
Now explain how this could cause the evolution, if you will, of the pandemic to spread.
Yeah, so during a pandemic, right, and you introduce a vaccine that's what's called non-sterilizing, so it doesn't give them full immunity, right? So mRNA shots, we know that doesn't give you full immunity. You still get infected. Single antigen-based ones, that doesn't give you full immunity. It's just one antigen. There's many antigens on these viruses. And so you still get infected, but then all of a sudden your body, it's been found in a study by Lee and colleagues to result in mutant strains. And we even saw this with the COVID-19 pandemic. After the mRNA injection campaigns in humans, this also led to the development of new strains. And so this is just a known phenomenon and not something we should be doing.
You had a well, by the way, before I move on to the next topic, when will we know whether they're going to do this or not?
It appears this project or plan will be finalized by July, and we'll have a much better idea if they'll be going forward with this or not, in the next few months or so. So I guess the best thing we can do now is raise our concerns that we don't want our animal or our food supply to be vaccinated with toxic products.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they're trying to engineer another pandemic? And you think more so during a Trump administration, like they rolled out COVID on his first term?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. We've now had over 5, 6 warnings by prominent people like Bill Gates, like Ashish Jha, like Peter Marks, the former FDA official in charge of vaccine research. In the past few months, they've all been warning about imminent bioterror attacks. There's thousands of BSL-3 and BSL-4 biolabs in the United States. Any of them could be holding these modified pathogens with pandemic potential. And we do know that they are forecasting these bioterror attacks. And so, yeah, I do
let's
believe
stop right there for a minute. And it's public knowledge where those are. I mean, anyone could look those up, right?
Right.
So if a terrorist group like Iran, Hezbollah, terror cells, want to go and take out one of these, they could use that to spread a major pandemic, right?
Yeah, they could do it, or another actor could do it and just blame it on Iran or China in an attempt to start a war or escalate any war tension. So now the situation is so complex in America. We really do hope there is no sort of bioterrorism attacks. We got to keep a close eye on this and really, really drill into these laboratories and ensure they're not doing anything illegal, especially given that recently 3 Chinese CCP-linked researchers were arrested by the FBI at University of Michigan for transporting from China to the U.S. illegal biological materials.
So clearly they have plans to use these. Otherwise, why would you be bringing them here? Then you add that to the storage locker that was found in California 2 years ago or so with all those pathogens, right?
Yeah, I believe that was called the Ridley Biolab or something along those lines. Yeah, that was a disaster. They had all sorts of pathogens. They had Ebola, they had COVID, they had, I think they had Nipah virus. I'm not sure, but they had all sorts of viruses. And, there's probably many of those labs that are basically in, people's basements holding all sorts of very dangerous pathogens.
Let's go to another article by you over at thefocalpoints.com, thefocalpoints.com. This is a startling headline. COVID-19 vaccines responsible for more American casualties than World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. That is startling.
Yes, this is very disturbing, and this is a conservative estimate. We know VAERS is actually underreported by a factor of about 100. A Harvard report in collaboration with HHS a few decades ago found less than 1% of vaccine injuries are reported to VAERS. So actually the number should be 19,000, which is the current death toll in VAERS. We should actually multiply that by 100. Right, but 31 has been assumed to be a conservative estimate in a study by Rose and colleagues in the journal Science, Public Health Policy and the Law. So we do give these conservative estimates, so we're not, so we're being reasonable for people that can't even accept there's been 10 deaths. And so, yeah, look at the death toll from World War I, World War II, Vietnam War. That's the American death toll, 580,000. We have far surpassed that. And another estimate, not using VAERS, but using a study with Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo on that study. You extrapolate that study to American Pfizer estimates, and it actually becomes 470,000 in the first year alone, 470,000 deaths from Pfizer. And so this is not something we can just brush under the rug, right? When there's a massive war, a mass casualty event, we got to address that, and we got to start healing the people that have been seriously injured.
Mm-hmm. We talk about the goal of globalists to depopulate. You think, well, start a world war. You can depopulate that way, right? But this is really showing us that a pandemic will wipe out more people than a world war. Because you're talking here World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. So, I mean, if your goal is partly depopulation, don't we have a video of Gates saying that the vaccines will help depopulation?
Yeah, he said that in a TED Talk. He said so he gives an equation in order to reduce CO2. And one way to do that was through increasing vaccine uptake. That'll reduce the number of people in the equation, which will in turn, he claims, reduce CO2. And so, yeah, he stated that, about a decade ago.
All right, let's see what else you got here. Study. Review calls for market removal of COVID-19 vaccines intensify as risk far outweigh the theoretical benefits. We've got a bunch of groups as I scroll through your timeline on your website. I don't know, I got it somewhere.
Hey, go to the very top.
You had a list of, there they are right there.
Yeah. So we collected all these organizations. We found them. We reached out to some of them. And in this study that's published in the journal Science, Public Health Policy, and the Law, we did find 17 professional physician and scientific organizations that have all called for the immediate market withdrawal of these vaccines. This was back in December. It's probably way more than 17, but these are the most prominent ones that we could identify. It's just when there's this many scientific organizations, our government should start listening to them, right? Not to Pfizer, not to Moderna, but to these real organizations that care about people and are not in it for the profits.
And what do you make of RFK Jr. getting rid of a bunch of these people? 17 people on that vaccine board?
Yes, he wiped it out. He clicked the reset button and he's repopulating it with people that should be making much better decisions than were previously, that's for sure.
You also put out there public records, widespread mRNA carnage, mass injury and death in new polls. 81.3% of Americans say they or a loved one suffered serious injury, disability, or death from mRNA shots. 79% believe the shots caused over 1 million deaths.
Yes, this also is very concerning to me. So what I did was I initiated 2 polls on X, just to see what the public sentiment is of the mRNA injection campaigns at the moment. And what we found is shocking. 81% of the over 1,000 participants in the survey either they themselves have been seriously injured or disabled, or a loved one of theirs has been seriously injured, disabled, or died. And so that's a vast majority of the respondents. Now, yeah, this is an X poll, right? And it's not a scientific survey. But regardless, this should raise major concerns. That's a lot of people that have been seriously affected, seriously injured. And then when we have 79% believing over 1 million people have died as a result of the mRNA injection campaign. So it's clear the public knows these are extraordinarily deadly, and they have been affected. It's what I call mRNA carnage.
mRNA carnage. Well, that's for sure. All right, folks, if you want to follow him on X, here you go. Here's all the things you need to know. At McCullough Fund. You can also go to the website, thefocalpoints.com. And you can follow Nic here at Nic Hulscher, N-I-C for Nick, N-I-C-H-U-L-S-C-H-E-R, Nic Hulscher, director of the McCullough Foundation. Any other news you need to tell us about before we let you go?
No, that's about it. We're at the McCullough Foundation, we're going to keep tracking things. We're going to keep looking for new harms that pop up. And we have a paper coming out that will truly shock people. Okay, will you come back when it's out? Yes, I will. All right, Nic Hulscher, thank you for checking in, Nick. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me. And he mentioned, of course, McCullough Foundation. That's Peter McCullough, who also is with the Wellness Company. And I have one of these. I have several of these, actually, the wellness kits. You can get them at worldviewhealthcare.com. Got your amoxicillin, your ivermectin, all kinds of things in here. Again, you can either go and sit and wait at urgent care when you get the flu or something that needs an antibiotic, or you can just do what we've done on more than one occasion, and that is walk down the hall, get out the pack, read the book inside, line up your symptoms with what you need to be taking. Remember last fall I had pneumonia, got a temperature of 103. There's no way I felt good enough to get in a car and go to a wellness center somewhere and sit like a urgent care. I didn't have to because I had the Wellness Company kit with
amoxicillin already in it. So you check it out, get your own, worldviewhealthcare.com. We'll be right back.
We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.